Good afternoon. My name is Samuel Musyoki. I am the Country Director, Plan International in Zambia. My training background is anthropology and development studies, and sanitation is one of those sectors which have been dear to my heart. And since 2006, 2007, when I was based at the Institute of Development Studies, I started meeting Kamal Kal as he came as a visiting fellow. And as a person who has background in participatory methods to development, I got interested in community-led total sanitation, which is actually what brought him to IDS when he was a visiting fellow. And I did accompany him in one of the trainings he was doing in Tanzania, and this happens to be actually training for Plan, and I was there as a participant observer, and just taking interest in really what he was doing. And after that, I did write a piece, Skeptics and Evangelists, which is one of also my earlier publications on CLTS, critiquing and also trying really to see what may need to be done to help CLTS grow as a robust methodology. And my stance then was, let's allow the skeptics ask all the questions they need to do so that they can defend or even promote a CLTS better. Maybe today, I don't know if I have moved from being a skeptic myself to an evangelist, because I've been a champion of CLTS. I've done many trainings. I've written quite a bit about community-led total sanitation. And I've also pioneered the use of CLTS in urban areas, particularly in Mathare 10, where we tried out a CLTS in urban settings. So today, I just want to respond to a few questions which Ada and the organizers of this conference asked me to respond to. And I will start first by looking at how Plan is using findings from the recent ODF sustainability study, or open defecation free sustainability study that was done a while back, supported by Plan Australia, Plan UK, and Plan Netherlands. And it covered Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, and Sierra Leone. I don't know if some of you have read it, but basically my focus here is on what actions are being considered to sustain the gains and address some of the main challenges identified by the study. The study, in a nutshell, focused on looking at rates of reversion to open defecation, and the motivating or the factors that really pushed people to revert to open defecation. But maybe a caveat I should also give is that by the time the study was started and when it ended, which was about, I think the report was released in 2012 or 2013 actually, I must say it was overtaken by events, because a lot was already happening. Because what pushed us initially even to want to have the study done was because we were sensing there could be issues around sustaining open defecation free status, and we were already doing things, from the training in itself, making sure that there is good training, quality triggering, follow-up monitoring and mentoring natural leaders and champions of CLTS to ensure that they are there to respond to some of the questions or the challenges may be coming up with. But nevertheless, of course, the study itself reaffirmed some of the fears we had, and found us already doing some of the things. It's recommending the focus on hand washing or issues on behavior change, particularly when it comes to hand washing, as well as participatory technology development, where you work with the communities to look at what options exist out there technologically. Because we believe, surely, as much as there is a push for sanitation marketing, there isn't one model. And for us, the issue is, in any community, there will be engineers, there will be technicians who are doing some things right. And the question is it possible to organize the community and look around and see what different technologies exist, from the simplest or the cheapest to the most expensive, and they can choose which one fits, depending on their economic capabilities, but not necessarily pushing a particular model or a particular design of what should be promoted. So our stand has been, let us look around, let's organize or work with the communities and the natural leaders and find the solutions, which exist, and they can pick from a whole range of what they are able to find. And where there is need for training also, training for masons or people who can actually manufacture some of the things they want, the wares, if it's toilet pans, that can also come around. And sure enough, we have seen, many solutions to these aspects, particularly when it comes to the question of technological options which exist, which communities have been able to find and take up and begin using as well. When it comes to aspects to do with hand washing, I think there's a debate there to be held as well, because either hand washing is overrated, I would say that, and we need to look at those critical moments we talk about. Sometimes a household might not have a hand washing device standing outside the toilet. That may be important for me and you as we come to check and say, oh, they have a hand washing facility, a tippy tap, or maybe a small bucket, with a tap and soap. But actually, when you dig deeper, some people still wash their hands. It could be water in a basin somewhere in a corner, although they may not have, a tippy tap, or they may not have a gadget installed specifically for that. And this is one of the factors which actually, when you look at the criteria used to determine if a household has reverted, to open defecation, you wonder if adding a criteria like hand washing as one of the parameters to look at really does guarantee you to say this family has reverted. Maybe there is no open defecation for sure. There is no lid or a cover on the toilet, but they may be putting ashes and you don't see any flies coming out. Or, as I said, there is no hand washing facility. That, to me, shouldn't be reason enough to say community has reverted. And we need to engage in the whole discussion here as we think about the criteria we use to determine what is open defecation, and when we talk of reversion, what that could be. Monitoring, evaluation, and research or knowledge management has been key for our work in plan. And if I pick an example of the Pan-Africa CLTS project funded by the Dutch government and being implemented in 8 countries in Western and then the region of Eastern and Southern Africa. Every year we have had a sharing and learning event looking at a particular theme around, community-led to sanitation. And those moments have been key moments to reflect, document, because we've been able to also visit the field and write blogs, as well as come up with publication drawing key lessons. I remember a few years ago, there was one in Malawi and was looking at monitoring and evaluation, and we had to look at the whole area of harnessing ICT for monitoring and evaluation, and using some of the tools we use internally, like the point of interest mapping and the mobile technology, which also now is being used in one of the projects here in partnership with the UNICEF. And in Kenya, it has also been used. But there has been different aspects we've looked at. So that deliberate attempt of having annual reflections, sharing and learning workshops has been critical, and it has provided key materials and sharp, analysis of what we are learning and improving our performance. A key component to that has been having a partner to facilitate that process. The Institute of Development Studies CLTS Knowledge Hub has been one of the partners, and IRC in the Netherlands have been also partners in this. And I must say that aspect of having an external partner who can ask, questions and pushes a little bit more has helped in actually being critical in our reflection and not simply looking inwardly and not being able to ask the tough questions on what we need to do. I remember even the study on ODF sustainability was arched, through such discussions, and even the design of the methodology was also facilitated with our partners, and we came with, rigorous questions that would help us to look at the aspects of ODF sustainability. So partnerships are key, and having that deliberate effort of also reflecting and capturing lessons and insights has been critical. And the other bit, which is the more formal research, like what we are doing with the University of North Carolina in Ghana, Kenya, and Ethiopia. And this is actually testing CLTS approaches for sustainability and picking some themes. In Kenya, they are looking at, can CLTS, for instance, be sustained if you work with middle management level or at districts or your municipalities and equip them with knowledge and skills as well as attitudes and ways of facilitating that they can champion for CLTS within the institution. And then in Ghana, they're looking at working with natural leaders, as a way, can it help in actually spreading as well as sustaining CLTS. And then in Ethiopia, looking at working with schools or school-led total sanitation and seeing if that can actually contribute to sustainability. And this study, again, is being done with an independent researcher where Plan does the intervention, and then the University of North Carolina does the studying over a period of 5 years, and they will come up with results which are showing this particular testing on working with middle-level management or school-led total sanitation or natural leaders was actually able to succeed or not, and if it succeeded, what were the factors, what might you need to consider? And you could consider a combination of both. And this is actually coming up with a body of knowledge that really tests and is able to qualify and give parameters which makes CLTS work in different settings. Of course, there have been other smaller initiatives or studies or even ideas we think that we may need to look at as well. For instance, when you look at the ODF sustainability study and you read the subtext, the narrative coming through, there seems to be messages coming through from the communities. There is a change in terms of our health. But actually, we may not be able to prove that unless we do some kind of health outcomes or we assess health outcomes of communities where CLTS has been implemented. Yes, they may not be washing their hands as frequently as possible, but we do hear a story being told there, which seems to be saying there is impact. What is that impact, mate? We want to look at it and using that also to advocate further and show why this approach may actually be producing a difference in the lives of children and the communities where we work. The next question I'm looking at is about small towns and urban contexts which present unique challenge for sanitation services. And here the question was actually given on my work on urban CLTS. What should we know about urban mobilization and transposing rural approaches into small towns and urban context? As I stated earlier, of course, I was involved in the pioneering of CLTS in urban informal settlements in Nairobi, more specifically in Mathare. And the question was always, can CLTS work in urban areas? And we had to give it a try, and the short answer to that, yes, it can work in urban settings. The key difference, I would say, is that CLTS in urban areas, call it citizens-led total sanitation, is actually about galvanizing citizens' action to demand for better services or accountability. It's not simply about, triggering communities to start, digging holes around. because in the cities or in towns there are bylaws which govern them. And you find that actually also law enforcement comes into force here, particularly when you are talking of landlords who have decided, or structure owners who have decided to rent houses and collect rent without providing the minimum standards which are required. So the question is, are they breaking the tenancy law? And what should the local governments do about enforcing such laws? Or businesses which are running and they don't have sanitation facilities, or even the city council itself with open drains everywhere and not looking at what danger that poses to the children. So again, enforcing the law, strategic litigation also comes in. And when we galvanize the citizens, you saw them beginning to demand from the landlords to have better services. And we saw landlords either knocking down 2 units of their blocks and putting a toilet and a bathroom, so that their tenants at least can shit with dignity, or they do not have to go and defecate in the open. And we saw also communities organizing and beginning to clean up, and we saw them demolish toilets which they felt did not meet the standards. We saw entrepreneurs begin actually to provide responses by selling sanitation as a service in the communities as well, including very sophisticated technologies such as having a toilet with biodigester, and even using the gas generated from those toilets to cook or boil water for people to buy as well. So given the trends we see in Africa, urbanization is here, and it is here not to go. Actually, maybe by 2030 we are talking of more than 80% of African populations either living in urban settings. So let's not wish slums away, because slums will be there. People may shift from one place to another. And the question is, how do we use demand creation approaches such as CLTS to galvanize citizens, have roundtable meetings with stakeholders, private sector, to begin responding and even enforcing the laws that stipulate that all citizens have a right to live in a clean or a decent environment. So I will not ignore urban. Urban is here, and we need to be focusing on. As we think about our strategy, it's something we cannot ignore and see how best to engage. Thank you.